What's up, guys? Matt Brown and Brett Collson here for the Week 9 Circa podcast here on TheLines.com, Play Picks, YouTube. Hope everybody is having a good week so far. Hope Thursday Night Football was good to you as well. Brett, we have an interesting card this week. We are taking a look at some of these games that have some pretty big spreads, and then we have some others that have been on the move here due to maybe some injury news that could or could not come out, some things that are going on out there in the world. So you mentioned before we started recording here, one, we're going to have to play just because we're getting a free massive amount of points from where the line currently sits. And some of these other ones have been on the move as well. But how did you feel overall whenever you were trying to get to your 5 this week?
You know, I felt pretty good. I thought there were some pretty good leverage spots this week for the contest. But like you said, there is one game where it's like, I hate taking the chalk, and we know this is going to be chalk in the contest, but it doesn't matter. Like, this is a free square. You just have to do it. So we'll get into that one in a bit.
So, of course, guys, you know, the big injury news that has been going on this week, Patrick Mahomes, questionable, likely not to play. He ran with the twos all week long in practice. Joe Flacco moved to the IR, so Brandon Allen is going to get the start for the Broncos. Dwayne Haskins is going to get the start for the Redskins. So, I mean, big quarterback news there. Some running back news is James Conner is going to be doubtful for the Steelers. Then you got these wide receivers out here, and T.Y. Hilton for the Colts is out. Will Fuller is out for the Texans. And then you actually have some good news in Sterling Shepard is going to be back from the concussion protocol to play for the Cowboys. And so some of that news is pretty interesting. Adam Thielen, questionable for the Vikings, but apparently on the good side of questionable. And then Jimmy Smith going to be back for the Ravens. That's pretty big. Vontae Maddox going to be back for the Eagles as well. This Eagles team continues to get healthier and healthier each week that rolls by. And then Josh Gordon, of course, was claimed off the waivers by the Seahawks. It does not look like he's going to play this week, but Josh Gordon is now on yet another team, Brett.
Yeah, I'm just happy it's not the Buffalo Bills.
As you probably should be. I put out kind of a sarcastic tweet yesterday, and, you know, everyone just was getting so incredibly excited about this guy. And I was like, you know, listen, over the last 6 NFL seasons, Josh Gordon has 103 receptions. 6 NFL seasons, he has 103 receptions. We had 10 different guys equal or exceed that in the NFL last year. Yeah,
we think all of a sudden this guy is just going to turn into 2013 Josh Gordon again. Come on.
It's pretty crazy that we continue to latch on to, and look, you and I are of the age where, you know, that season is vivid in my memory for sure, because it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen on a football field.
He was awesome.
Yeah. In my whole life, I've never seen anything like it. It was the most unbelievable season for a wide receiver I think I've ever seen. But, you know, it was one season. So I think that we've got to understand that as we move forward here. One of the games that is definitely going to make our card is going to be the Jaguars plus 1.5. Always a reminder here, guys, the number we're giving you is the number for the contest for the Circa Sports Million, and not the number that is reflected probably at your sports book that you're looking at this morning. So be sure and understand that we have to play the numbers that are printed on the website for the Circa Sports Million contest. So these lines are going to probably be different from what you see at your sports book as we sit right now. But the line that is printed over at Circa Sports, Brett, is Jaguars plus 1.5 against the Texans over in London.
Yeah, and I love this spot for Jacksonville. This Houston roster is a triage unit right now, especially on defense. We already know J.J. Watt on IR. He's done. But then you've got their best corner, Bradley Roby, out. Another corner, Lonnie Johnson, out. Imagine the guy who has to replace Lonnie Johnson, how bad that guy is. You got safety Deshaun Gibson out, plus Will Fuller out again. 2 offensive linemen hurt. And then Deshaun Watson dealing with that eye thing. I don't know what his situation is. This would be my favorite game of the week if it wasn't being played overseas. But even there, I think the Jags have an edge given that they've played in London yearly. They know the routine. They've got that down. A lot of these players have done it multiple years. So I think this is a great spot for the Jags, and I'm happy that you feel the same way.
Yeah, loving this spot as well. J.J. Watt, while he wasn't showing up in the box score left and right, the J.J. Watt had 52 quarterback pressures on the year, which is 1/3 of all of Houston's pressures on defense. So they are losing 1/3 of all of their quarterback pressures and J.J. Watt not being on the field, he had 16 quarterback hits, and the entire team only has 24 for the season. So, I mean, while he wasn't showing up all over the place as like getting sack after sack after sack or whatever, his presence was definitely felt out there on the field. And for him not to be out there, this defense takes a big, big hit. And not only from the quarterback pressure standpoint, but also from a rushing standpoint as well. The run success rate for teams when J.J. Watt is and is not on the field over the last couple of seasons climbs from 7.2% up to 10.4%. And it's just a guy like that just makes a lot of difference in a lot of different facets of the game. And as you mentioned, with those two corners being out, safety being out, there's just a lot that they're going to have to be dealing with here. And honestly, the Jaguars, I think, are pretty equipped to go in there and kind of exploit this.
Yeah, that defensive line is the only strength of this Texans defense. You take J.J. Watt away, and what are they left with all these injuries around him? So the Jaguars should be able to feast here. I think this offense is underrated. I think they have some really underrated weapons in the passing game. I like Chris Conley a lot. I think, obviously DJ Chark has kind of blown up and turned into one of the up and coming receivers in this game. So I think this, honestly, I would not be surprised if the Jaguars just won by a couple touchdowns.
Let's go to the other that is the, as you mentioned, kind of the free space here. And while it didn't make your card, I think you have absolutely no problem with this just from a strategy standpoint. It was on my card. It's just the Vikings +2. And yes, you're hearing that correctly. Vikings +2 as the contest number here. As we sit recording this on Saturday morning, it is actually Vikings -2.5 as we sit right now. And once the news is official that Patrick Mahomes is not going to play, this number is going to get even bigger. So as we sit, we have a 4.5 point movement in the line here that we have to take advantage of. And likely, Brett, by the time this thing goes off, I imagine it will get to Vikings 3, if not 3.5 here. So there's just too much value for us to leave on the table.
Yeah, they set the line here almost as a hedge in case Mahomes plays. I mean, what's the line if Mahomes plays?
Probably a flip, right? Probably Chiefs -2.5, -3, something like that. And probably a full flip from where it is, I would imagine, sitting right now. Because, one thing I think that they will take into account regardless is just the fact that this Chiefs rush defense is pretty terrible. And of course, this Vikings run offense has been really, really good. Dalvin Cook probably been the best running back in the league so far. And, and honest to God, the offense actually looks really, really good as long as Kirk Cousins has time to throw the ball. And of course, the Chiefs aren't up there, if you believe in Pro Football Focus numbers and things like that. They are not up there in quarterback pressures and quarterback pass rush grades and things like that. So if that were to hold true, then Kirk Cousins has been really good. I mean, I think that you and I both have been a little bit kind of perplexed by this Vikings team. Some weeks I've been on them, you've been off them. Some weeks you've been on them, I've been off them. But I think one thing that we both agree on is that they, over the last few weeks, have looked like a pretty damn solid team. Oh,
they're great. A team that usually, with the home away splits with Cousins and this Vikes teams, I tend to fade in these spots. It is a little scary going to Arrowhead, but you can't ignore the free points, and it could be as many as like 6 by the time this thing closes, right? I mean, this is just one you have to play.
All right, let's talk about your must-make here, and I cannot wait to hear about this, and that is the Broncos +3.5 at home against the Browns.
Well, I really like this Broncos team right now. I was heavy on them last week, and they covered easily against the Colts. Now facing adversity with a backup quarterback who has never taken a snap in his NFL career, and I love these spots. This line moved 4 points off the look ahead here, but Brandon Allen making his first start at home in the friendly confines of Mile High against a team that is so lost right now. I just can't fathom them being a field goal plus favorite on the road. So I like the Broncos here. I don't think anybody's going to take them in the contest. I still think this is a pretty fair number. I actually think this should be just -3. So give me the hook. I know the line is moving the other way, but that's okay. We're in a contest here. We're not trying to beat the market. We're trying to beat 1,800 other people. So I don't mind taking these weird spots where the number isn't necessarily favoring me, but I'm getting a lot of leverage against everybody else in the field. in the field.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's your must make. It has to make the card. This is probably my least favorite pick that you've made all year long on this entire thing because there's just too many unknowns here. I mean, like this Brandon Allen guy has been in the league for several years and has never been able to get off practice squads. And look, the Browns defense finally back healthy last week. And if you look into that box score against the Patriots, I mean, one, not only should they definitely have covered, but they should have, there was weird underlying statistics that the game actually should have been fairly close. It was, turnovers on 3 consecutive possessions for some of the stupidest play calling and some of the stupidest decision making I think I've seen in the NFL. Now, I have not agreed always this year with what Vic Fangio has done. There's no doubt about that. But if we're talking coaching advantage in this game, there is very, very little doubt as to where the coaching advantage lies, and that will certainly be on the Broncos sideline because Freddie Kitchens is going to be out of there at the end of this year. He has proven to be in over his head without a doubt, and some of the stuff that he has done I think is honestly holding back this Browns team from its potential. Now, I'm not buying into the preseason hype, and you and I told everyone to temper the expectations for this Browns team coming into the season. That said, I do think that they've actually been kind of robbed of what their full potential could be this season due to some of these coaching decisions that have been made.
Oh, absolutely. And on the other side, you got an offensive coordinator for Denver who was a quarterback coach who worked under Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. So I expect Brandon Allen to be prepared for what's coming. And I think the Broncos can win this game, especially with this ground game against a leaky Browns run defense. Yes, the Browns are going to stack the box, and they absolutely should. But I still think there's enough here that the Broncos could just win this game. And Freddie Kitchens should already be gone. I can't imagine what that locker room is like right now with all of these divas in this turmoil. That's nuts. Yeah, I don't know.
So let's go to my must make, and my must make is going to be a pick that is not going to be popular this week. I think that all of the quote unquote sharps are definitely going to be on the other side this week, and that is the Patriots -3.5 on the road at the Ravens. This has been all you've heard this week, Brett, is how the pick is the Ravens. But here's the deal though. All we heard last week was how the pick was the Browns. And all we hear every single week is how the pick is always against the Patriots here. And I think everyone says, oh no, the betting public and Patriots and this, that, but I think in the bubble that we live in, there's just as much groupthink. And I think that this is a situation where, you and I have played a bunch of DFS in our day, and some guy will be floated out there as kind of a contrarian play or an off the wall play. And then by the time that, Sunday rolls around, in our bubble and in our little group of DFS people, that guy is no longer contrarian or no longer off the wall, because now everyone has started touting this guy as like the weird or the best play of the week or the play of the week, because we live in a bubble where, we're susceptible to groupthink as well. And I think that a lot of that is happening right here with this Patriots-Ravens game. And what we look at is a Ravens team that, when you look at Lamar Jackson and what he has done when he has been forced to throw the ball, outside of one really good game, and I will give it to him, he had one really good game, Lamar Jackson has not been all that great, and especially here, Brett, under pressure. And if this Patriots team is able to put any sort of pressure on Lamar Jackson, we're talking about a guy who's under pressure on target rate. This isn't even just completion rate. This is just on target, where he's putting the ball in what is deemed to be an on-target throw. Under pressure so far this year falls to 38.8%, whereas from a clean pocket, Lamar Jackson's throwing on-target passes at 75.7%. If you don't think that the Patriots are going to figure out a way to make him uncomfortable, to make him have to do things with his arm that he's not feeling completely comfortable doing, I think that you're really underselling what Bill Belichick brings to the table here. And I think there's going to be a lot of zone defense that's going to be run, where the defense all keeps their eyes on Lamar Jackson. None of this stuff where, you're running in man all the time and turning your back on him and he's able to kind of do his thing and rush for over 100 yards. I don't think that's going to be the case here either. And look, the Patriots offense, I will say, has not been firing on all cylinders for sure this year, but they have been able to get it done each and every week. And this Ravens defense is nothing to write home about. Getting Jimmy Smith back is certainly a big bonus for this secondary, but we don't know how healthy he is. We don't know how effective he's going to be. It was the same thing we were saying with the Cardinals and Patrick Peterson, and we were watching Patrick Peterson get roasted all over the field, by the 49ers this past week. Some of these guys that have extended absences, it takes them a little while to kind of get back into the groove of things here. So, for me, I think there's a lot of people who are trying to be smarter than the other people in the room. They are trying to outthink everything. And you know what? Sooner or later, they're going to be right. And it might be this week, but every week you can't just pick against the Patriots. And then when it finally happens, go, see, I told you so. I told you this was the week, because every single week you're picking against the Patriots. So you're going to be right one way or another, because they're not going to cover every single game. They're not going to win every single game. But this week, I think everyone is pointing to this spot as if it's some sort of holy grail here, with a receiving core that is not very good. They're young. Willie Snead is a guy that is like playing a big role in this offense here. Mark Andrews has a case of the drops for whatever reason over the last several weeks, and Lamar Jackson, frankly, has gotten much better in year 1 to year 2, but is still one of the middle to lower middle of the pack passers in all of the NFL. So I think a lot of people are going to be holding those Ravens +3 tickets this week, and they're going to try to be the guys that point and say, ha ha, I told you so. But I think I'm going to be on the other side this week.
Yeah, I keep hearing that, this is the week the sharps are all over the Ravens. This is the spot, yada, yada. I heard the same thing last week, and I was in on it too. I think we both were. But at some point, maybe you just have to accept that the Patriots are the outlier. Throw away the box scores, because they don't tell the whole story. Bill Belichick is on another level. He's coaching a different game out there. So even though the coaching disadvantage is smaller this week, this team finds ways to get the job done, and they don't have to cover a big number this week like they have been doing week after week. So, the inefficiencies on offense aren't going to be as glaring when you only have to cover 3.5 points. So I kind of threw this away at the bottom because I don't know how to cap these Patriots games anymore, but I like that we're going to be on the other side of a lot of the sharp people in this contest.
Yeah, and I think there has been look, the Ravens pass rush has been non-existent so far this year, so we don't have to worry about Tom Brady and his cement shoes, being sacked all over the place. That's not going to happen here. So we're not having to worry about from that standpoint whether Tom Brady's going to have to dodge, guys flying all over the place at him. That's not the case here, and of course the coverage is going to get a little bit better for them, getting some of these guys a little bit more healthy. But again, from a seasonal aspect here, the coverage for this team has not been very good either. So, look, I'm playing what I thought here would be. Listen, and I'll tell you this, and guys, this is not just a contest play for me. If this thing keeps steaming and for whatever reason gets under 3, if this thing gets to 2.5 before kickoff, Brett, I'm telling you right now, I will have the financial backing of this pick as well. So this is not just, hey, I'm making a contest pick here. I'll be backing this with my own money as well.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got 4, and that was a nice, easy 4 because we were all kind of on board here. So we can talk about our other couple of picks here. We'll start with you. You have, tell me which is your favorite of these. You have Bucks +5.5, Raiders -2, and Steelers +1. Which one is the highest rated of yours?
That would be the Bucks. This is one that I was kind of going back and forth on with the Broncos is my other play. I ended up with Broncos just because I like it as a contest play, but I would say Bucks plus, what's the number? Plus
5.5.
5.5. Yeah. That would be my top one left.
Yeah. And that is on the road at the Seahawks. My other 2 plays were Packers -3.5 and then the Bills -9.5. And really the Bills play came as soon as the Redskins announced that they were going to Dwayne Haskins. And Brett, we're talking about a very low total game here, so I understand that 9.5 in a game that's sitting at 37 is a ridiculous spread that has to be covered. But if you look over at DraftKings over on the East Coast right now, this number has moved all the way to 10.5. So the Bills are having to cover 10.5 in a 37-point game, just to let you know what the people instantly thought of Dwayne Haskins starting for the Redskins here. I do not mind at all your Bucks 5.5 game. I mean, if we kind of look into the underlying statistics last week, and we're the same thing we're kind of talking about with the Browns side, was the Bucks really and truly not only should have won that game against the Titans, but probably actually should have won that game mildly handily against the Titans. Whenever you really look at the advanced stats, how that game broke down. And again, just some untimely turnovers and some untimely kind of calls that went on in that game to get it to where it didn't work out for them. And so, look, I think that the home field advantage thing over in Seattle, one, has been diminishing anyway over the years, and two, I just think home field advantage in general in the NFL has been rotting away over the last several seasons, and I believe that this is something that we're probably going to get a big data study about here. I imagine someone will do this study in the offseason here as to why that might be, but I have my own theories, which is, look, home field advantage, Brett, I think used to be much, much bigger because, especially like, let's call it 30 years ago, because teams were like taking buses to games, and like you were cramped up on a bus, and like you were staying in crappy hotel rooms and all this stuff. But like the NFL is every team is a multi-billion-dollar, entity now. And these guys are flying private. They're staying in the nicest hotels there is. They're bringing massage therapists. They're bringing all these physical therapists. They're bringing chefs and whatever and all this. And, travel isn't near as long as it used to be because people have figured out how to optimize travel. If they have to play on the East Coast, they'll just stay and then they'll go ahead and go to the next game and whatever. So I think people have figured out how to make these road games where they don't really affect the team near as much as they used to. And I would say even, 5 to 10 years ago.
Well, yeah. And then you also have teams preparing for the noise in practice, and it just becomes routine and muscle memory. I mean, these teams are more prepared for that than ever before. So I'm with you. I think there are certain stadiums where it certainly is a factor still, but the general thinking is that, you give a team 3 points for home field advantage. You can throw that away for a lot of teams. And in some places like LA, it might actually be negative because you've got teams like the Steelers, and this week you're going to see it with the Packers. They're just going to flood that stadium and turn it into a Packers home game. So
and how does that feel to be the quote unquote home team and look up in the stands and 70% of the crowd is wearing the opposing people's jersey?
And I think that has a lot to do with why the Chargers are struggling so much this year. They don't have that support, and for a team that's not playing well, I mean, it's just unraveling and you can see it.
Yeah. So you know what? I am okay with going. I'm okay. I'm imagining you weren't jumping you weren't jumping out of your seat at Packers 3.5 or Bills 9.5. It didn't seem like
the Packers one is so interesting. We talked about this on, I think, Tuesday with our early look at the lines. Why isn't this 7? Like this line doesn't make sense to me because of what we just talked about with the Chargers at home. So I think the Packers are going to be super popular. So I left it just outside my card, but like, how can you not like the Packers minus 3.5? What's going on here with this line?
I dug into it even further. And honestly, the way that I have this game and everything that I look for, man, I can't get there. I can't get there on the Chargers side. I understand that everyone's going to say, like, so the one thing I did see is like the Packers pass defense is giving up like a lot of quote unquote of the explosive pass plays. And I guess that if you look at this team with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and then having Hunter Henry through the pass game at the tight end position, like the biggest weak spot here for the Packers defense has been giving up these, what the advanced stats have now deemed, explosive pass plays, of like 25 plus yards or whatever it is or something like that. But I mean, how many of those is it going to take for the Chargers to really and truly, make this game tight? I don't know. I couldn't get there. I don't know. I'll probably be playing this game with my own money. But maybe there's something I'm just missing and we won't put it on the card here. As far as the Bills go, again, this is just a play against as opposed to a play for. And this is just a play against Dwayne Haskins making his first start in the NFL on the road at Buffalo, and as well as anyone that the home field advantage up in Buffalo comes with the weather, the conditions, the different things like that. And I mean, of course the fans are great too, but really the the advantage that you see from playing at a Bills place is much different than what I'm talking about from a travel standpoint. It becomes the conditions, and what kind of conditions are we in right now? I know the reason that this is an audio podcast this week instead of a video podcast this week, and we'll be back to video next week, guys, don't worry, is because of Mother Nature and things that are going on up there in Buffalo.
Yeah, the whole city got wrecked by wind on Thursday. So I think around between 40 and 50,000 people lost power, myself included. I was without power for quite a while. So I think we're looking at between 15 and 20 mile per hour winds right now. That could always change. It is Buffalo. It might end up snowing on Sunday. So we're not really sure what the weather is going to look like. But yeah, look, I've been on the Dwayne Haskins is bad wagon since well before the draft. So I totally get this. It's just hard for me to get behind this offense covering more than a touchdown.
Right.
Because this Bills offense is a disaster.
And that is true. And in a game where there's not likely to be a ton of points anyway, I'm totally fine with that. And I think that, whenever when we really kind of take a look at this thing here, I mean, like, Brett, this thing could be, this could be like a 9-3 game. It really could. Like this thing could be like 9-3.
That might even be high. I mean, you're expecting these teams to make field goals in this weather. I don't know if that's possible either. So I mean, this could be like a 7-0 game or something like it could end up being like that. I feel like this total is actually high.
I know, right? And I think there's a couple of these low totals this week that I think are definitely out of whack here. So you know what, man, I'm okay with this. Let's go ahead and go with the Bucks plus 5.5 here, and that will round out our card. And I like this pick as well. I mean, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was 7 on my card anyway, so it's not like it's that far down as it is. And we were on the same side of this one as opposed to being on opposite sides of this one. The only other one that I had that was coming in a little bit higher was just the Eagles and Bears, and that was taking the Eagles at home against this Bears team that I think both of those teams are just going in the complete opposite directions right now, and the Eagles getting a little bit healthier, Bears just getting a little bit worse from. I mean, talk about a guy that needs to be run out of town. Like if Nagy's not gone at the end of this year, I understand Trubisky's been bad, but some of these decisions that this guy has made and then decided to double down on and try and say that he was making the right decision is just absolutely absurd there. So, I that was the only other one that was a little bit higher on my card, but I didn't have like a ton of conviction in that one. The 4.5 number we're getting the worst of it there. That number is sitting at 4 right now out there. So, I never, if it comes down to kind of a tiebreaker, right, I never like to take the worst of the number. So I'm completely okay with the 5.5 here on the Buccaneers, because there's certainly some 5s out there. And I think that even at DraftKings right now, if you want the 5.5 on the Bucks, it's juiced to 115. So we could see this thing move to 5 as well. So we're actually probably going to be getting at least a half a point in this game.
Yeah, and it's a little scary having the Hawks this far up in my card because I've whiffed with them several times this year. But this is just too many points against a team coming off a bye with this much firepower in the passing game that Seattle is just not built to stop. This is one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL with a lousy coverage unit in the secondary. How exactly are they going to stop Godwin and Evans here? The only thing that gives me pause, of course, is Jameis doing Jameis things. But and if he does, then you know what, Seattle could win by 2 touchdowns. So like we'll just and so be it. Yeah, it's like that's the risk you take when you put the Bucks on your card every week, as it is. And that's probably built into this number, right? I mean, the Jameis factor essentially. But the matchups in this game favor Tampa Bay, and with an extra week of preparation, this is just clearly the right side for me.
Jags plus 1.5, Vikings plus 2, Broncos plus 3.5, Patriots minus 3.5, and Bucks plus 5.5. I think we're on the right side of a lot of these numbers. I think that we're going to get the better of a lot of these as well, and I think that we're also on some pretty good contest picks as well. So I'm feeling pretty good about this one as well, my friend. And as we said, guys, we'll be back to normal video next week. No worries there. Just a little bit of a technical power outage, some technical aspects that we couldn't get past up there in the old Great White North. I'm going to go ahead and just call Buffalo the Great White North moving forward. So for everything here, but good stuff, Brett. Good luck this week, my friend, and we'll be back. We'll be back on Sunday night for the Sunday Night Football Breakdown, as well as Monday for Monday Night Football Breakdown. Guys, thanks for listening. For Brett, I'm Matt. Talk to you guys next week.